choose. We go fitness and sports, rating our fantasy teams, and get that going. It's a weird part in the sports world. We got hockey apparently started today, and then we've got, whatchamacallit, basketball likely coming in
I know
two
it's about to
weeks.
be crazy, especially once NHL is like on prediction strike.
Yeah, that's going to be nuts.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just like fantasy basketball is just so much different than fantasy football, but in reality, it's not that different. I guess because it's really three positions compared to like, I guess five. Oh, there's Grant.
Yo,
What's up? We are live here on the TikToks and so on, so we're gonna go ahead and get started in a second.
I'll get in the chat. How does my mic sound? These headphones are kind of hit or miss.
Sounds fine to me.
Okay.
Alrighty.
how you doing, Grant?
Doing well.
Let's see. Move this over here a little bit. There we go. Let's see here. Would you drop Najee for Tyjae Spears?
Low key.
I don't know if I would.
I don't know if I'd pull a trigger on that, but it is definitely getting to that point. I don't know if I have a lot of love for Dulcich, but I definitely think he's going to be a guy that gets better. But starting off with our first team here, we got Patrick Mahomes, Joe Mixon, James Cook, Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb, Travis Kelce, and Calvin Ridley. I mean, this is just a very strong team, especially looking at their bench.
Yeah, definitely. I think Brees Hall, James Cook has been nice too, and I think Brees Hall kind of coming back into the fold, fantasy wise. On top of that, is going to be good for this running back room, and the wide receiver room is pretty stacked.
Yeah, you could, like, there's nothing to really say about this team except, like, maybe try to take your running backs to another step forward, but yeah, like, this is great. And we did just start Harville. Happy to see you back in here. Overall, this is just a very, very solid team. There's nothing to really say about it. Like, I can't.
Brees Hall is must start to me going forward. I don't know who you take him out for or who you take out for him. Probably Ridley, but I think Brees is a guy that needs to start going forward. I mean, this week I guess against Philly is conceivably the only week where you don't start him, but even that feels like a week where you have to throw him in there just because he was their only guy that was really doing anything electric this weekend. So
Yeah, like, this is just an extremely good team. There's not really too much else to say about it. This is going to be very, very strong. For those of you who are just joining, if you want your team rated, you DM our guy Jackson here at Jamario Moon on the Discord. Link to that is in the bio. And he'll tell you exactly how to get your team set up here accordingly. But yeah, this is just a very solid team. There's not really much to say on it. Like, yeah, great team. Justin Fields, Brees Hall, Raheem Mostert, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Dallas Goedert, Nico Collins. Then you got Joe Mixon sitting on the bench for Javonte, Drake London, Zay Flowers, Devon Achon, who is unfortunately injured.
yeah, that was a weird one. What do you think about that injury? I'm sure we're going to see a lot of H-on, so we might as well just get the convo out of the way. But, I mean, he finished the rest of the game seemingly, and, I mean, was even running routes on the last play of the game. So it kind of came out of nowhere a little bit.
I'd just still be holding on to him because I think he's just got such a big plan / role in this offense once he's full go. It is a weird injury, but it's nice to have Raheem Mostert essentially as that handcuff, who's basically a must-start candidate this
No,
week.
yeah. It's almost better to have one of them injured fantasy-wise if you have both because you can guarantee that one is going to be successful.
Exactly.
Whereas if you have both of them, it's hard to pick between, yeah.
Brody, this is team number 2. Yeah, not really much to say on this one either. You could technically like trade for a more consistent flex because like Nico Collins, I think, is going to be a very hit or miss kind of player, unfortunately. Because I think your running back room is going to be fairly consistent based on what you have. So the only thing I'd say is to maybe improve the flex option here.
Is Jaleel officially? I mean, not Jaleel. Is Javonte officially back?
I
100%.
honestly don't know, and I don't really pay attention to him just because I look at him like he's gonna just be an injury-prone guy all season. That's kind of how I've always looked at him. Just like
Yeah.
not a lot of
Mc-
upside.
McLaughlin looked great this weekend,
Oh,
but
he really
I
did.
he's not going to have much of a role if Javante's back. But
No, he really did. Um, who's getting swatted? That would be Jackson. Um, but
I'm always getting swatted on these streams, bro. It's never ending.
Facts. Let's see here. But overall, it's a very solid team. Like running back's the only thing you can technically get more consistent or your flex spot, but like your waiting is paid off for Brees Hall, and you have the handcuff of Raheem Mostert. Now you just need Jeff Wilson for the trifecta. But Jalen Hurts, Amon St. Brown, Jacoby Myers, Bijan Robinson, Isaiah Pacheco, Sam Laporta, DK Metcalf, Nico Collins, Rashad White, Brian Robinson, Cortland Sutton, Darren Waller, Tank Dell. I mean, this is just a very strong team. The wide receiver spot is the only spot that technically needs something more firm, but like you have Jacoby Myers sitting in your actual wide receiver spot over DK Metcalf. And DK and Amon are more than fine for receiver. Technically, your flex could be improved here. But outside of that, like I'm not looking at anything that really needs to be super emphatic or not. Like Sam Laporta, I think that his role will diminish somewhat once he goes further. But like this is a bit of a historic run. But considering that Amon St. Brown's also likely going to be out, like that really bumps up Sam Laporta's value.
is Amon Ra out this weekend?
Probably not, but he's going to probably be in a limited fashion, would be
Yeah.
my guesstimation. I don't know. Like this is just a good team. It's just like the flex spot is the only technical weak spot, and that's countering like with Jacoby Myers, Rashad White, Nick Collins, and Brian Robinson, who are all more than fine fill-ins. But,
Yeah, it all depends on the size of the league. In like a 12 man or something, you're sitting pretty with that. So
yeah.
I wouldn't put too much stress into it.
I think this is fine. There's not really too much to say about here outside of like Jacoby Myers isn't like the most consistent option you could have. You could technically upgrade for something more consistent in the wide receiver department because your running backs are le fuego. Yeah, you could trade for the SWAT team. This is true. Let's see here. Ooh, we even got some ads on here. We got Brock Purdy, Bijan Robinson, DeAndre Swift, Calvin Ridley, Tank Dell, Sam Laporta, Gus Edwards. T. Higgins and D Hop sitting on the bench. I don't know if I'd be sitting D Hop over Tank Dell personally. That's just me.
I would not be dropping Michael Wilson for Logan Thomas too, especially because you have Laporta. There's no reason to make that move. Also, having an extra kicker on your bench is just a little pointless. Like, instead of dropping Michael Wilson, who, assuming this is a little bit of a deeper league based on who's on your bench, keeping Michael Wilson, who I feel like at least has some potential to be used on bye weeks and stuff, versus Logan Thomas, or like a second kicker, just doesn't seem valuable to me.
Yeah. Like, it's just a fine team. Like, there's nothing really too crazy. The receivers position you technically need an upgrade, but it's also you don't have everyone in the proper order on here. I'd
Get
sell
T.
high.
Higgins back, yeah.
Yeah, I'd sell high on Christian Kirk. Yeah, I agree with the whole Michael Wilson thing, especially the kicker thing. Like, I don't get that either. If anything, like you want to be cycling defenses. Not too much else to really say about this team. I think Brock Purdy was one of the late round smashes at this point. That's just not going to be going away.
I don't know if I would drop Gus as well. I would pick up Thielen for like Braxton Berrios.
Yeah.
I think I like the guys you're trying to pick up mostly. It's just changing around who you're dropping for them is important.
Yeah, I also don't see like the appeal of Curtis Samuel personally.
Yeah, that just felt like a fluky week. It's hard to tell with those guys. They all seem to have a week where they look like the passing offense is finally going to switch and they found a guy, but then the next week it's a different guy who plays well. So it's just I don't think it's worth gambling on, and I would probably hold off of Curtis Samuel.
Yeah. I don't know. I like it. It's just like it's got weird spots in it. Like DeAndre Hopkins should be fine. Once T Higgins is back, Joe Burrow looked great. Like I don't know. Moving on. Let's see here. Lamar Jackson, Jamar Chase, Brandon Ayuk, Devon Achon, Brian Robinson. So the running back room here is the big weak point, realistically, because Achon is unfortunately now sitting out for you. Nick Chubb, you got hit with, which sucks there. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers for you. Major pain. Let's see here.
I wonder what the scoring system is in this league. It's definitely a little inflated.
I think like they have a specialty for like specific props.
100-yard games and stuff.
That's what I'm looking at for like Jamar Chase. That's the only thing that really makes sense there.
So this person, by the way, also traded Dobbs for Flowers, traded A-Chain and Ertz for Montgomery, and added Ty J. Spears for Rushy Rice.
Interesting.
All good moves. I wonder if they. Yeah, I wonder if they traded Achon and Ertz before the injury or after. But I mean, that seems like a decent move now.
Yeah, I think that worked out super well for them. I mean, Montgomery's a dog.
Yeah, hopefully he's sustainable at that level. But for now, definitely a guy you need to start every week. And with like Breece Hall and Brian Robinson and some other guys, and obviously it sucks he lost Chubb, but even if he doesn't pan out completely, you have cover for it there, so it's all right.
Yeah, and you can move.
Not mad at it.
It's your flex spot here, but like this is a very strong team for what they had to pivot from. Just yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out with all the trades that made in it.
I wonder how many points a receiving first down is. It's a weird one.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. Like Breece Hall, I'm imagining it's like they go over 40 yards or something. That's where they get an upgrade. Because both Breece Hall and Jamar Chase seem inflated. But
oh yeah, I mean Jamar got some for 40-yard receptions, and then yeah.
This must be a fun league with all the extra scoring bits.
Yeah, it's cool.
Lawrence, Bijan, Jacobs, Kupp, very strong front three here with Mark Andrews sitting in at the tight end spot. Zay could be more consistent, but you do have Amari Cooper chilling on the bench with Brandon Ayuk. I mean, this is a very solid team. Achon is unfortunate. Dell is a bit unfortunate. And Sanders just hasn't been able to produce. But, like, this is just a very strong team. The flex spot is the only technical weak spot, if there really is one at this point in the game. Anything you guys would do that would be different?
I mean, there's definitely some depth on the bench you can play around with to help out your flex spot. I mean, Amari Cooper, like by himself, is pretty sufficient enough flex option, but I think you'd like to see maybe one other person who you can confidently sub out right there week in, week out. And I think you could definitely package up like Pickens and Dell or A-Chain to someone who's still willing to buy him. Yeah.
Yeah, you could also just hold Achon and survive for 2 weeks or so, and then once he's back, he's a perfectly viable flex option. Yeah. Your running back room, I think, is set and about as good as you could find right now, though. It seems like Jacobs is off and flying for the rest of the season, so.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs has been looking good. Excited to see how he plays out. Cooper Kupp also immediately just dominant in his performance back. I'd say now, as we've been saying, like, is the time to be selling on Puka, if you are, while he's still at this massive team.
Yeah, he had a good game, too, so you could sell to people that the Cup edition isn't too big of a deal, which I don't think it'll obviously have an effect on targets and stuff, but
it's still not going to be
still viable as a flex, yeah.
Yeah, he's still going to be viable. Let's see here. We got Tua, Derrick Henry, Kyren Williams, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce, Tyler Lockett, Rashad White, with plenty of options sitting on the bench here. I
What do you
mean,
make of Roshan going forward the next few weeks?
he's injured too, right?
He got a concussion. It seems like because there's 9 days in between games, he's ready to return this weekend. And it seems like Herbert's going to be out for a couple weeks. So I am going into this week under the assumption that Roshan's a starting back, but I'm not 100% positive on that. But I would guess that that's the case.
I would personally imagine it's gonna be Deontay Foreman, but like they'll
Yeah.
probably lean on Roshan to be the guy the following week. Um,
Yeah, I mean, depends on the severity of the concussion, but
if anything, it's wheels up for Justin Fields.
For
Just
yeah,
sure it
because
is.
he's just gonna be running a lot. Um, I've been trying to sell high on Kyron Williams any chance I get. Tyler Lockett's not really dependable in my opinion. I think Rashad White is fine. Um, this team just feels relatively sparse. I'd imagine it's a bit of a deeper league. Um, just because Amari Cooper and DeAndre Hopkins, I imagine, are not the most ideal for your leading receivers here. Like,
yeah,
I'm trying to find the first round pick. And
Henry, maybe.
that's the only thing that makes sense. Is like it would be Henry, but like normally Henry's going in the middle of the second.
Oh wait, it's definitely Kelsey. Yeah.
Oh, Kelsey,
yeah.
I'm an idiot. I always blank when I see Kelsey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like
Um,
there's not a lot of consistency in the running back room, unfortunately. The same thing with the wide receiver core. It's just all kind of too sparsed out.
yeah, it probably would have been ideal to move off of Kyron before this week, just because he had that
Consistent,
first kind
massive
of hiccup.
performance. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he had the little bit of a hiccup, but I mean that's against an Eagles defense that has held running backs all year, so I wouldn't be too scared or worried about it. I think there's still a lot there going forward, and this is a prime spot for another huge game against Arizona. So I would probably sell not now, but after this upcoming week, because this feels like a game where he could easily be like 20.
And for those of you asking exactly how to get your team rated, you join the Discord. The link to that is in the bio. You DM our guy Jackson here at Jamario Moon, and he'll tell you exactly how to get your team rated.
Yeah, and that's at Jamario Moon.
Let's see here.
Then make sure to send me a DM and not just comment something in one of the channels, because it's more than likely that I won't see it if you don't send me a direct message.
Yeah, like Aaron Jones just not being in sucks obviously for right now. Najee Harris was just a big swing and a miss. There just needs to be, I guess, more consistency in this roster. Like, it's got all the pieces it needs to fill out the flex, right? But 2-for-1s are also hard to build this into something even stronger. Because you want to keep Aaron Jones, you don't really have as much wiggle room for Kyron anymore. I don't know. No one really, I feel like, is super invested in Lockett at this point.
Najee is such a dud. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you
Najee
kind of.
I feel like
Anyone
it's
that drafted. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. I mean, yeah, I feel like anyone who drafted Najee kind of got screwed up there because he was what, like a
It was like
sixth
fourth,
round,
fifth, sixth, something.
fifth. Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. Really tough.
Yeah.
I mean, like, do you guys think he can turn it around at all or no? Like, I mean, I know we've kind of been saying he's a dud, but
I think it's going to be a committee of some variety. That'd be my guesstimation.
Yeah, I think if you drafted like really early into the preseason or before the preseason this year, you definitely got screwed with Najee. But if you watched any of the preseason and then you were still hyped on Najee, it's kind of like on you at that point, just because it seemed pretty clear that there was going to be some form of committee. We even talked about it with our guy that we had on our podcast that week. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. I don't know if Warren is ever going to take over to a point where you can trust him either. But for now, I am just kind of staying away from both a little bit.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just not really a spot I'm too invested in. I don't know. We'll see how this team goes. Let's see here. Trevor Lawrence, Bijan, Karen, Amon St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, TJ Hawkinson, Ramondre Stevenson, Jacoby Myers. A lot of two flexes with Cortland Sutton, Tyler Algier, Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, Tajay Spears, Tyler Boyd, and Jeff Wilson vibing on the IR. Um, Jeff Wilson's in for kind of a good run once he gets back because the injuries will essentially be done. Or not done, his injury will, but Achon's will likely still be there. Um, this team took
I
a
think I
lot of
would
upside swings, just didn't really connect on a lot.
I think I would start him over Ramondre
Yeah.
for
Um,
at least the couple weeks where Achon's out. But
but let's see here. I would probably start off with. I don't know. We'll see how Ramondre plays. I'd like to think that there's more optimism kind of going in the future, but his snap share continues to go down.
yeah,
Um, Waddle just hasn't had a level of consistency. Um,
there has to be some sort of like nagging injury or something there because it like nothing changed from last year really. I mean, I guess they are going a little more heavy into the run game, but in terms of like targets to go around, Tua is still throwing the ball a ton, and it's not like they brought in any other receiving talent. So it just I don't know. Waddle hasn't had that massive game yet, and it doesn't really make much sense to me.
Probably once we're past week 8, week 9, he'll all of a sudden just start spiking like crazy for no reason.
Yeah,
Um, just like the flex in theory, like I'm not saying to sell high on Jacoby and Ramondre, but like I don't mind packaging them together to get something even better. Tyler Boyd's gonna be a nice little fill in as long as like Joe Burrow continues to look like how he did this past weekend. But I don't know. I just like my biggest thing with fantasy football is like always try to draft the actual wide receiver one on the team. So it's hard for me when I see like Jalen Waddle because it's like he's good. He's going to get a lot of fantasy points. I just don't see it super consistent. Um, Kyron and Amon-Ra for Cup. What side would you prefer to have?
the two. I mean, if you have the depth to cover it up, and then Cup is clearly the best asset in that. But is it this guy's team? Obviously,
I don't know.
I
I
mean, he
don't
has
think so.
Kyron and Amon-Ra.
I mean, like let's just assume it is this guy's team. Like
If it was this guy's team, I would not.
yeah.
I
This is
don't think he has the
also
depth to
this guy's
cover.
team is 1-4, by the way. Something to note.
Yeah, I don't think he has the depth really to cover up for a loss because you're going 2 for 1 there, and then you're gonna have to be slotting in like Ty J Spears or Tyler Boyd or something to start. And if you need to start putting together the wins, I don't think that's the best way to do it. I think you're better off with Kyron and Amon Ra. If anything, I would maybe sell high on Kyron with one of your bench pieces or something for like a little bit of an upgrade, but going 2 for 1 with your two best players arguably doesn't feel like it's too worth it here.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I just don't like holding on to Kyron because I really do think somebody else is going to come and take over that job. I just don't really know who it is going to be. I'm just very
Yeah,
confident that happens.
but if you're 1-4 and you need a win this week, Kyron Williams feels like this is the perfect week for a pop game against a bad Arizona team, and the game script will be on his side and all of that. So I like him to surpass that 18.8 right there and hopefully get you to a win, and then you could think about selling high after a big like extra breakout. So I would hold for now, but I think I would definitely consider trading him after this week.
Would you guys trade Amon-Ra and JT for Tyreek?
Probably not. I mean, I feel like it's the same kind of fallacy as like the Kyron Amon Ra thing. I don't think like yeah, I don't think I would give up JT for Tyreek like that.
Fair enough.
Wells, would you rather have Kyron or Taylor
I
going forward?
prefer Jonathan Taylor's upside in the long run. I just think that Kyron is, I wouldn't say not, well, he's definitely not as talented. Um, it's just, there's only so many fantasy points that are like given in a season to a degree, and I don't see that Kyron's really going to be like a true top 10 fantasy running back. So it's
Hmm.
like if he's got over 100 of those points right now, let's say that caps off at like 300 or so, then he's already like 33% at least through those progressions at minimum. Um, I don't know. And I also just see the contract that he got and it just gets better. He'll be elite like in the very end of it. Would be my imagination here, and then like people are gonna get angry because he's not performing to like a godly degree in the first couple weeks.
Yeah,
Um,
fair.
but we have Justin Fields, Brian Robinson, Kyron Williams, Jamar Chase, DJ Moore. Must have had a very fun week this week. Sam Laporta, Josh Reynolds, with Chris Olave on the bench. What?
He'll be starting over Reynolds for now
Yeah.
on, I would assume. But yeah, it's a weird one. Having him, Miles Sanders. I mean, Miles Sanders hasn't really lived up to anything. It's hard to sell, but
The running backs are
um,
just weak here. I mean, Achon should have fixed that in theory, but like that's the
with
big weak
Achon
point.
back, having Kyron, Achon, Chase, DJ Moore, Laporta, Olave, and like Brian Robinson fighting it out for that last flex, though, I don't mind too much. You're definitely relying on some of the younger running backs with high potential, so a lot of times those guys can kind of fade a little bit towards the end of the season, but just talent alone, I think you have enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the running back room is the only real weak part of this team. Like, that's really all I have about this one. Because it's not like you could potentially trade CJ Stroud, but I think some people will be annoyed with his performance last week. Um, Deontay Johnson's not going to fetch you anything. Miles Sanders, unfortunately, really won't. And you can't really sell high on Josh Reynolds' name because it's really because of the Pittman situation. I mean, not Pittman, a minor situation. But nothing else too crazy about this team. Solid team overall. Running back room just needs work. Deshaun Watson, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp. So this team just got all of its pieces back. Amari Cooper, Darren Waller, Ramondre Stevenson, Christian Watson on the bye. Dalton Kincaid, Jahan Dotson, Robert Woods, Tajay Spears. So they don't really have anything sitting on the bench here. Trade Devo for Amari and Watson. Right on. The bench just really doesn't have any actual true depth to it, but there's definitely some like upswings. I wouldn't say emerging, but they have potential at least. But this just seems like a very strong team for something that's a bit deeper.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, like it is a pretty weak bench, but having Ty J and McLaughlin are like pretty good positive assets sitting on your bench that could be, still producing by the end of the season. So I don't mind that. It's just like with no depth, having your flex players be Ramondre and Christian Watson I don't think it's sustainable.
Yeah, so they were offered Pollard and Olave for Cup. Would you take that?
Take it and run.
Yeah.
Like, I prefer that because that also gives you so much stability across your team's roster in
It
reality.
adds depth too.
Um,
I think Olave is very good, and Pollard would be your first or second best RB. So I
well, you
mean,
can just throw him in the flex
that feels like a
spot.
no-brainer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a
Christian
very, very strong
Watson,
team.
who knows what he looks like once he's kind of fully back to performance, but so far he has not looked particularly impressive.
For those asking, the Discord's entirely free. The link to that is in the bio. You don't want your team rated, you just DM our guy Jackson here at Jamario Moon in the Discord, and he'll let you know exactly how to get your team rated here. But like overall, if you can get that team, like this team will be insane. It's already in a very, very strong spot. Because I mean, like think of it like this when you're drafting. Cooper Kupp and Bijan Robinson were both first rounders realistically here. Jonathan Taylor, if he actually like didn't have the suspension, was in the second round. Like, I don't know, based off where you drafted initially, is great. Let's see here. We got Justin Fields, Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler, AJ Brown, DJ Moore, Jake Ferguson, James Cook. DK Metcalf is really the only relevant person sitting on the bench. I want something more sustainable in the flex department, but it's really fine. Like AJ Brown and DJ Moore for receivers is strong. DK Metcalf is a good fill-in. Kamara and James Cook, I feel like there could be something more consistent than them, but I'm also not opposed to just having those guys on my roster. What are y'all's thoughts?
I think this is a strong team. Yeah, I mean, having DK and Cook as fill-ins is pretty elite. Yeah, I do think. I mean, maybe you could improve at wide receiver a little bit, but I like this team a lot. Like, and there's also I like the players you have on your bench right now. There's
Yeah.
definitely room for you to package up some people if you wanted to improve your team too. Like, seems like you'd be in a good spot.
Yeah. Nothing really too crazy about this. Just very solid team. Like, the bench is a little bit shoddy, but, like, as we said, like, DK Metcalf is more than fine. Um, yeah, nothing really too crazy to say about this one. Would you ever have Fields or Deshaun Watson for the rest of the season?
Fields.
I feel like I want to lean that way as well, just off the schedule more than anything. But we have C.J. Stroud, Bijan Robinson, Kyron Williams, Chris Olave, Stephon Diggs, Mark Andrews, Derrick Henry. This team's cracked with Jonathan Taylor sitting on the bench. Yeah, like this is just a really, really, really strong team. There isn't much to change the last two times, but you keep losing 2 and 3. I mean, there's really
Yeah,
nothing to change about this team. Like, what do? You throw in Derrick Henry at the flex, then the running back position, then you put like Jonathan Taylor in for the flex. Like, I don't really know what else you can do with this team.
this is 10-man half PPR, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean, I think you sell Derrick Henry as soon as possible.
yeah,
Hopefully, he has a better week that could get you a little more in a trade. But, I mean, Jonathan Taylor is going to be your guy that's sitting in that spot the rest of the year, I would have to assume.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that we keep saying this person's team is great, but they're 2 and 3, and I feel like a lot of that has to be because of Jerry Judy, of Jonathan Taylor, and it's like as much as it sucks, like it is because of where we're at in the season. They needed time to come back into the game, so I do think the outlook is positive for this team.
yeah. Like, there's
Oh, for
nothing
sure.
really to say about this team in the sense of like I wouldn't really even opt for like trading for too much. Like maybe see if
Yeah.
you can go buy low on Justin Jefferson and have that sitting on your bench, but you kind of need to be a little bit more win now at the moment. Um, but yeah, technically get like a better flex option because Kyron Williams' time I imagine is drawing shorter than people are willing to admit, and you could package him with like I don't know like Nico Collins realistically. But I really wouldn't be trying to ship off Olave, but that's just me. Jalen Hurts, Bijan Robinson, Ramondre Stevenson, C.D. Lamb, Devontae Smith, Zach Ertz, Isaiah Pacheco, and Brees Hall. This is just a very stable team. That's just I wouldn't say built to win, but it's just going to consistently get strong points week in week out with its running back specifically. Wide receivers are kind of the theoretical weak point here, but like Christian Watson coming back should be able to fill in appropriately for how they built this team. I actually really like this team a lot. Any thoughts from you guys on this one?
Yeah, I mean, the bench leaves a little bit to be desired with in terms of pieces you can move off on. But assuming your team stays healthy and you just need Watson and Palmer to slot into some flex spots and some wide receiver slots when your bye weeks come, then I think you're in a totally great spot. If this team stays healthy, you're set. It's just a matter of whether that happens or not. I love your two flex options, though. By the way, I think those are perfect. There's not much more you really need from that.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I would agree.
it's just a very strong team all around. You could technically sell high on Zach Moss and get like an even better running back to fill in. But like it's just very well hedged in a lot of spots. Nothing really too crazy to say here. Um, yeah, that's really it. Very solid team. Fields, Eckler, Brees Hall, Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper, T.J. Hawkinson, DeAndre Hopkins, Kenneth Gainwell, Jake Ferguson, Tyjae Spears, Zach Moss, Odell, Matt Breida, Kyler Murray. I like the front half of this team. I don't like the back half of this team. Um, like technically, you can sell high on Zach Moss right now just because he does seem like he's going to be a guy for at least a short bit of time. Um, but like overall, it's a very like solid team here. Like I just don't really have too much on like how to improve this further because like the receivers are in a fine tier, the running backs are in a great tier, and then like the flex, it's annoying to keep saying the same thing over and over again, but like that's a spot you can technically always improve. Um, but I'd be focusing
Yeah,
on a higher end backup running back here to help replace Brees Hall or Austin Eckler for whenever that time does come.
yeah. I don't know how you would necessarily package anyone to fit that flex. This seems like definitely a deeper league, so it's gonna be tough to make that happen. But um, yeah, I mean, what do you think about the Zach Moss role going forward?
I
It's kind
just
of a tough one to predict.
I just think it's going to be relevant for a little bit of time as like Jonathan Taylor gets reassociated with how to play football, and then like people are gonna be like, well, I want Zach Moss's fantasy points, and that's really what's going to be the great thing for them in the short term.
Yeah.
And I think Jake Ferguson could technically be packaged in that as well. But overall, it's a very solid team on the front half, as we pointed out. But like the back half, there's not really too much you can like mesh together.
If you stay healthy, you're set.
Yeah. But overall, it should be able to win plenty of weeks. It's just like, yeah, same thing, message over repeated here. Next team here, though, we have Trevor Lawrence, Bijan, Josh Jacobs, Cooper Kupp, Brendan Ayuk, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers. Amari Cooper's chilling on the bench. Let's see here. Devon A. Chain, Miles Sanders. I feel like we looked over this team.
Yeah, we might have. I was just about to
I
say
think we
this might
did.
be a dupe. Yeah.
Let's see here. All right, we got Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Keenan Allen, Brandon Ayuk, T.J. Hawkinson, Kyron Williams, Garrett Wilson, Rashad White, Chris Godwin, Zach Ertz. All right. I mean, this team's just very, very strong at receivers specifically. I mean, you've got three guys that are all kind of prepped to take a step forward in their respective offenses. Like
Your running backs are
yeah,
insane too.
your running backs are very strong. Like in theory, like sell high on.
Trade Kyron and Marquise Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Take advantage of a big Marquise Brown week. I don't know when your league has playoffs or something, but the league I'm in, Marquise Brown's bye is the first week of the playoffs, so it's kind of a weird one to balance his talent level versus his bye week there, just because if he gets you to the playoffs, then you're going to have to take him out. So he's someone that I'm comfortable moving on from in any league.
yeah. I mean, this is just a cracked team to put it lightly. Like in theory, you want to build up like your running backs a little bit further, but like you're just stacked in every position. Not really too much to kind of go off for this
I
one.
mean, I feel like unless isn't like a standard format league too, like they have two defenses, three tight ends. I feel like it's kind of a waste of space.
Yeah, you don't need three tight ends. I agree with that. Like you should be trying to make trades to put these in even better positions, but like it's just a very, very cracked roster. Moving on here, we got Jalen Hurts, Javonte, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, T.J. Hawkinson. So this person was waiting for this specific week. With Russell Wilson basically just being a clogger on the bench here. Same thing with Ezekiel Elliott and Tyler Conklin, realistically. I mean,
I would guess that this dude might be like 0-5 though.
yeah. Like, it's a good team now, but, like, when it started, this must have been really rough. Like, Javante never really had a nuclear game to really make sure that your running back core was safe. It sounds like you had Najee originally, so you've been waiting on Jonathan Taylor's return. Like, the wide receiver room's honestly fine, and I'm sure it was okay. Actually, it was probably in shambles a little bit without Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, it's one where I would definitely hope you strung together one win maybe, and even if you're 1-4 though, I think you could be confident that this team can make the playoffs just because of how good it looks now with those guys returning. So I wouldn't like overreact too much now. I think as long as you won a game, that you have a good chance going forward, but definitely probably a slower start.
Your RB1's not sustainable, unfortunately, and like your wide receiver core is fine, but like, what if one of these players has a bye week, which they will? Then like, are you fully confident in just Jerry Judy being able to make up that slack on that respective week?
I am enough. I mean,
Yeah.
this feels like a deeper league where a dude went all upside in like injured players and things like that. So, assuming this is like a 12-man league or something, throwing in Judy and Najee for like random weeks to me doesn't feel
Najee
that.
was supposed to be the chosen one, I feel like, this year for a lot of people, and he just failed them.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you should be very confident being able to win like 7 of your last 9 games or something like that and making a push towards the playoffs. So I wouldn't be too stressed.
Yeah. Overall, it's a fine team, though. Nothing really too positive or negative to say about it. Let's see here. Sorry, I gotta pull up to see how my Magic are doing. Moving forward.
Guys, if you're if you're trying to reach out to me in the Discord, DM me at Jamario Moon to get your team rated. I'm seeing people posting their teams in the Rate My Team channel. Just send me a direct message straight away, and we'll get you on the list. At
Also,
Jamario Moon.
if you guys want to just send your teams like a photo of them in there, pick the fantasy football room, not the Rate My Team room. The fantasy football room, people get back to you almost instantly. So that's another good way to get some instant feedback. Wells, do you see Dylan Brooks got ejected 5 minutes into his Rockets debut
It's honestly impressive.
in the preseason?
That's pretty impressive to pull off, especially with the amount of money he got paid, which is a whole nother story in itself. But
This team here,
rant.
we got Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, Sedarian Lamb, Puka Nakua, TJ Hawkinson, DJ Moore, and then Lions defense on the bench. We got Chris Olave, Terry McLaurin, Anthony Richardson, Drake London, Raheem Mostert, and Evan Ingram with David Montgomery too. Wow, what a bench!
This is a very cracked roster.
Yeah, this team's insane. I think Mostert is absolutely must start these next few weeks. As good as DJ Moore has been, maybe you throw him over Puka and you bench Puka, but with no Achon and with Wilson coming back from that injury, I think Mostert's a guy that you absolutely need to start. So, however you need to make that happen, I think it's got to happen.
You can even sell high on Mostert and like continue to go back to that Austin Eckler well that we've been talking about. Like, you can sell high on
Also
Anthony
true.
Richardson as well. Like, you have so many pieces that are just sitting on your bench that really could just take this lineup another step forward. Like, Puka's great. Is he going to be able to sustain value? For the most part, yes. But as long as Cooper Cup's the guy over there, like, Cooper Cup's going to be the main person. Like, you just have a lot of pieces that you can trade away here. My only thing would be, like, in theory, improve your RB2. Like, Kyron Williams would be, like, a must-sell for me if I were you. There's no reason to, like, think that his value is going to stay constant with everything that you have on the bench here. Like, you have David Montgomery that's easily a starter. Raheem Mostert, who's easily a starter. But, like, I'd be trying to sell either Raheem or Kyron, one of the two.
Also, Monty and Olave are too good to have on your bench, and Mostert as well, or whoever you bench for Mostert. So a trade probably needs to happen in any circumstance.
Yeah.
Olave, I mean, the last few weeks has been pretty mediocre, but I mean, I still believe a lot in his talent, and Montgomery is a touchdown machine. So
Agreed. But moving forward here, we have Jared Goff, Breece Hall, David Montgomery, Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Smith. So receivers are cracked, running backs are cracked, but like took a little time to come into form. You have Saquon Barkley chilling on your bench. Yeah, like just a solid team. Like not like fully like cracked in terms of the running backs here, but like these are still very very strong running backs to have. And your receivers are basically from the first 3 rounds as well. Like this team just drafted really really well. Nothing really too much to be saying about it. Anything from you guys?
No, I'm adding some stuff on the Discord right now.
Word.
If you were redrafting Wells, where would you take Brees Hall from now until the end of the season? Like, how high does he rank for you?
I mean, he's definitely a top 10 fantasy running back for the rest of the season, but like I don't really have his schedule in my brain. Like if I had a better idea of exactly what his schedule was, I'm sure it would be a bit different.
They have the Eagles, but then after that they get a run of games where it seems like he could go off. They got the Giants, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Dolphins, Falcons, Texans, Dolphins again, Commanders. His matchup for most championship games against the Browns, which isn't ideal, but
That one sucks.
I mean I expect him being in and around that 13-point projection the rest of the year, which is awesome.
Yeah. He's definitely going to be intriguing to watch. I like that was able to show out in his first game back, and I imagine we'll see more of that. So he was a phenomenal buy low kind of candidate for this short while. But overall, this is a very, very strong team. We got Desmond Ritter, Jerick McKinnon, Miles Sanders, A.J. Brown, D.K. Metcalf, Darren Waller, Marquise Brown, and DeAndre Swift. I mean, you have Justin Jefferson out for you, unfortunately. That explains why you have that set up the way you do. I would still structure it with DeAndre Swift as your main running back with McKinnon as the flex. Yeah, just no real upside swings have panned out for this team. You can't really trade out of it because if you do right now, you're losing Justin Jefferson in the long term, which really hurts this team's viability. It's super flex, so the drafting is definitely more spread out. Running back room is very weak. Wide receiver room is fine. But that's how this team was likely built.
Go get yourself Gardner Minshew. I don't want to look at Desmond Ritter anymore.
Yeah.
Or
honestly.
as you call him, the Riddler.
The Riddler.
The Rizzler.
That's his nickname under his guy on here. That's kind of a sick feature. I mean, it's a little random, but
it's a fun feature for sure. Yeah, like running backs are really the big issue with this specific team. But yeah, you just got unlucky with the Justin Jefferson thing. So in theory, you could be trading down out of Justin Jefferson. You're just going to be paying a major discount in order to do that, unfortunately. Because it's going to be, at least 4 weeks now, I think is what the deal is.
Yep, 4.
Which is just not ideal. Depending upon your record, like that's a situation of like if you have a good record, then you can like tier down without having to worry as much. But if you have a bad record, you definitely can't do that. But moving forward here, we have Jahmyr Gibbs, Austin Eckler, Tyler Lockett, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, and George Kittle. I hate seeing two tight ends in the same roster if it's not like tight end premium, which I'm assuming this has to be. Because, like, there's no site that has Cole Kmet average projection for 13 and George Kittle's at 12. Like, that seems insane.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad play then if there is that premium involved.
Yeah.
I think you probably drafted this team thinking Miles Sanders was going to fall in there and Gibbs was going to be a little bit more productive than he has been. But all things considered, it seemed like you rebounded well and picked up Kmet, who I see being good going forward. So.
Yeah. Let's see here. Where do you rank? I still have Olave and Pollard ranked in the same spot where they were. I prefer Pollard more because I like higher end running backs for safety. But like, I don't know, just like the running back room needs work here in theory. If it's tight end premium, then like having both Cole Kmet and George Kittle's in is fine. I don't know. Obviously, need the quarterback. I don't know. Wide receiver. I'd like something more consistent than Tyler Lockett. Romeo Doubs will be fine. there's just not a lot of like super like consistent things in this specific roster here. Like
Who are
Gibbs
you
and
who are you
Lockett.
picking up at QB to replace Jordan Love during the bye week this week? If you're this person, do you think like Matt Stafford is the best available
Yeah,
on?
I'd just be
I
taking
like
stuff.
Minshew
Yeah, Minshew. Yeah, I mean
Minshew's
he
fine.
is not a bad call.
Minshew's a fine option as well.
against a Jacksonville secondary that's kind of struggled, giving up a decent amount of points. I like Minshew this week, but Stafford's also not a bad play. I just think the game script in that one, the Rams have been a lot better than I think people thought they would be this year, and I see them taking a double digit lead against Arizona probably. So
I'm just waiting for
um,
that 3 to 4 passing touchdown game from him. It's
for
gonna
sure,
happen
for
at
sure.
some point. Overall, it's a fine team in a tight end premium league. It's just like your receiving core is absolutely like decimated right now because Mike Evans is battling injury. Tyler Lockett's anything but consistent, and Jameer Gibbs has just not been there for you at all this season. And now you're not being able to sell Jameer Gibbs for like anything, which really sucks. Um, and you can't really like put Miles Sanders in over him. I just don't really know how to like change this team. Like I would have sold Anthony Richardson already if like this was how my roster was created. And like
Yeah, but
improved
he's kind of
Lockett
lacking a
specifically.
quarterback a little bit, and healthy
Yeah,
Anthony Richardson is a good guy to have there. So
he is.
hindsight for sure, but it's a tough one to predict.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a fine team. Nothing too much more to say about it. Tua, DeAndre Swift, Kyron Williams, Jamar Chase, Amon St. Brown, Mark Andrews, Jordan Addison. I really like having Jordan Addison right now with the Justin Jefferson situation, just because I think he's going to be going absolutely crazy. Like KJ Osborne as well. Um,
Who would you start between the two?
I'd still go towards Jordan Addison following talent more than anything.
Yeah.
But, like,
I like Osborne a lot going forward in a deeper league to start at flex though. He just
oh,
seems
he's a
like
great person
as
for
the
flex.
as the veteran guy who knows the system in and out, who's been there for years, it seems like he has a chance to be catching a lot of the kind of intermediate routes, and a lot of the
For
deeper
sure.
chunk plays that Jettas was getting will go to Addison more than likely. But a lot of those like first down yardage kind of I could see Osborne easily having like 10 receptions in a game or two while Jefferson is out, or 7 or 8 average in these next 4 games, just because he seems like more of that possession receiver.
Yeah, I wouldn't be trading Jonathan Taylor and Amon-Ra for Tyreek Hill. That's just me personally. Um, if anything, like I would offer Kyron if you're forcing my hand to make a trade. Just because, like, I think there's brighter skies ahead of Jonathan Taylor than there is Kyron. Um, but like, I wouldn't really be trying to make that much of a change in my portfolio just for Tyreek Hill. Like Tyreek Hill's great, but Amon St. Brown is realistically in that same tier. Um, but anyways, like the running back spot's the only spot you technically need to improve here. Like your wide receivers are insane. Addison's going to be very strong without Justin Jefferson in the lineup. Um, there's really not too much else to say. Like you could be selling on Jerome Ford if you wanted. You can't really sell on Jameer Gibbs. Joe Burrow will potentially come back into form. Here's what it looks like. Maybe sell on Tua. But Kyron's a sell candidate for me. I'd just be building up this running back spot if anything. But even
If
then,
there's someone that needs running backs badly, like maybe the guy who drafted Chubb,
yeah,
or someone who's had other unfortunate injuries, I think you could look to sell high on Roshan, given his potential these next few weeks without Herbert. Also, hype on Jonathan Taylor or just Jerome Ford feels like a solid floor guy. Like, it doesn't seem like he's too special, but it seems like he's going to be around that 12-point projection that you see there almost every week. So there's a lot of guys there that you can package together that are too good to be having on your bench.
yeah, just overall solid team. Like just build up a little bit further in your running back room, and it's like almost impossible to stop. You have things turning on at the right time too, and that of like Jordan Addison, which is really solid.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. We have Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Chris Olave, Rasheed Rice, Jonathan Taylor, Raheem Mostert, Sam Laporta, and Josh Downs. I mean, very deep league here because of how many like receivers and flexes that you basically have combined together here. Rice and Downs obviously are not people that you want to be going towards. I'd still be starting Jonathan Mingo over. I mean, not Jonathan Mingo, Brian Robinson over a lot of these guys. But overall, it's a very fault iron roster for what you have. I do think the
With
running back can be stronger
with
though.
yeah, with Minshew in, I think Downs is a guy that will probably perform better with Minshew than with
Richardson,
Richardson.
yeah.
So I would be starting Downs for Rice this week probably, and then throwing B Rob into that flex spot where Rice would be. Seems to make the most sense to me.
Just because you're playing with a lot of upside here, and like you can make it like stronger. Like Mostert's great, and he's gonna have a phenomenal week. So it's like let him have his phenomenal week against Carolina, and then be looking to sell high on him because I imagine Austin Eckler is probably gonna come back a little bit slow or whatever. Um, and I
It
imagine
probably
Jonathan Taylor comes back to form as well.
it probably depends on what your record is. Like if you need a few wins badly, then these next 4 weeks it's important to have Mostert there, just because it seems like he's going to pop as long as Achon's out of the lineup. So if you need wins, keep him in. If you can afford to lose a couple or you don't need that massive production, then I would maybe look to get off of him after a big week this week.
Yeah. I'm not worried about Pollard with the Cowboys personally. I think he'll be fine. We put this in slides because it makes it easier for everyone to get their teams read. Um, but yeah, not really too much you can do about these. It's just like basically what are your flexes? Rasheed Rice and Josh Downs are not fully sustainable, and like somebody's really coming for most of jobs, and that's either Achon or Jeff Wilson. So that's why we're kind of advocating for you to move from there. Like overall, you've got a lot of strong pieces to stay consistent, but like your flexes and that of Rasheed Rice and Josh Downs could easily be better. And like selling
What
high on Josh Downs is a very smart thing to do once Minshew has his mania.
what kind of package do you think gets a trade for Justin Jefferson done at this current moment, assuming the do with Jefferson is like 2 and 3, let's say?
I mean, it all depends on exactly what I have at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Like if I had DJ Moore that just went nuclear, I'd look and be realistic with myself and be like, the most amount of fantasy points for a lot of these guys is like 240 or something like that. And if he just scored basically 20% of his production in one day, then like I have no problem throwing him in a trade package for Justin Jefferson with Raheem Mostert or something. Pieces that I think are going to be very good in the short term slash like more appealing to the eye, where that guy needs those theoretical wins. But I wouldn't be like fretting on it too heavily, just because I look at it, I'm like, this is just a big numbers game at the end of the day. Everybody only is allotted so many points. They're not going to all of a sudden everybody starts averaging 700 fantasy points in the year, although it would be nice. Um, but I don't know. I'd just be throwing the tiniest offer that I could and see exactly if they're like gonna slap me in the face or be like, we can work with this. Hopefully that's helpful though. Blank screen, more teams.
Guys, if you're looking to get your team reviewed like this, just go to our TikTok bio and click the link to the Discord there. Once you're set up in the Discord, just send me a DM at Jamario Moon, and we'll get you set up for the stream. We're also giving free prediction strike shares to all the new users, so that's an added bonus of getting on there and DMing me.
Yeah. We got Justin Herbert, Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker, Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin, Sam Laporta, and Zay Flowers. So you have a little bit of a receiver problem here, just because like Terry McLaurin unfortunately has not been that zenith of like consistency that we want, and the Zay Flowers is the wide receiver one essentially over there, but He's also not like getting the level of fantasy volume that you really want. Um, Even with Christian Watson coming back, you still have that same hole in what is essentially your flex spot here. I'd be trying to improve that in any way I could. It just sucks that like Terry McLaurin should be a trade piece, but he's just like not doing anything, which kind of sucks for this team here. Um, but overall, it's a solid team. Like I really like the running back room. I just would be trying to improve the flex. You can't really be selling on Terry. Zay Flowers hasn't really had that kind of amazing game. I really want Tua to be starting over Justin Herbert for the short term because I just don't see like Herbert being in full health with a messed up hand. Um, and then like the rest of the roster, I wouldn't say is like irrelevant, but like no one's really going to be trading for any of those specific players at this point in time. Do you guys have any more thoughts on that?
Sorry, I'm adding someone to
You're
the
good.
Discord. Yeah, no, I would agree with you on the Tua point. I'd definitely rather have him in the starting lineup for the boom. Um, yeah, I would just try to improve. I guess I like the running back room. It's
Just the
just
one
not
flex
deep
spot.
enough. Yeah.
All right, we'll move on then. We got Justin Herbert, Adam Thielen, Jordan Addison, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker. I mean, sell high on Christian Kirk. Olave on your bench is a big question mark for me. I'd be selling hype on Jamison Williams personally. Um, the running back one's week here, just like there's nothing that's really fully consistent in the wide receiver room whatsoever. Like Adam Thielen's a sell high guy, Christian Kirk's a sell high guy. Like Adam Thielen's
Oh,
going to get you
balls.
points. Christian Kirk's fine. Your running back is fine. Like Kyron's a sell kind of guy for me because you have Jerome Ford as well. Jameer Gibbs is fine. Your receivers just really need to be more consistent on this specific roster. Like,
I'd get Olave in there.
yeah, Olave also needs to be starting. Like, nothing really too crazy about this one other than like more consistency and like Kamara is a sell high candidate for me. Just because I think you get something more consistent as a true running back one.
Yeah, Ford and Kyron on the bench too is just too much production there to just have sitting. So
I want Ridley if I'm giving away Jerome Ford. I would prefer to have Ridley, Sonny. But moving on here, we got Kirko, 2 Chains, Puka, DJ Moore, Josh Jacobs, Christian McCaffrey, Amari Cooper, Darren Waller. Achon sitting on the bench. So your running backs are really strong. You're just waiting on a little bit of injuries here. You have Tank Dell and Terry McLaurin. So the receivers are a little bit more weak. In theory, you want to improve your flex here, but I mean, that's really all Puka is going to kind of pan out to be. This is just a very solid roster all around. And I believe that Darren Waller will continue to come into form here. But yeah, like this is just a solid roster. Nothing really else to say. No one's going to be buying high on Justin Fields. Just letting you know. At least not
you
right
don't think
now.
so?
Not right now. I think they need 3 weeks of confirmation from him. I think they got hurt too much the first couple.
Their schedule is so bad though that I would not be shocked if he continues the tear he's on right now.
That's part of why I loved him because I was like, this guy is just constantly got easy matchups. Like, I don't see why not. But moving forward, we got Lamar Jackson, Kyron Williams. I mean, this is just an absolutely cracked roster. Yeah, like I don't have anything to say about this team. This team's winning its league. Like, you honestly, the only thing that's like holding this team back is exactly how they set their roster each week. But like, yeah, this is just cracked. Nothing to say about this team at all.
Yeah, this is nasty.
Let's see here. Jared Goff, Austin Eckler, Kyron Williams, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Sam Laporta, Deebo Samuel, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, just another very solid matchup. You need to be filling in a defense with your extra bench spot here.
Hit collage.
Jonathan Taylor goes in there. Yeah, it's just a very solid team. I'd be selling high on Kyron. for another running back. Essentially, that's all Kyron's doing is being a placeholder for JT in the short term. And like Jacoby Myers and Gabe Davis are more than fine flexes for when you need them. Like, nothing bad at all to really say about this team. In theory, like, build up your flex another step forward. Let's see here. We got Mahomes, CeeDee Lamb, Calvin Ridley, Jahan Dotson, Brees Hall, David Monty, Jonnu Smith. That's a first. Saquon Barkley, Cam Akers. So you've got a lot of upswings that you're looking for on your bench here. Nothing really that you want. What's up, Brian? Let's see here. Your wide receiver 3 seems, I wouldn't say a threat, just not really strong in my personal opinion. But like you also will be getting Deontay Johnson back, which should help. But the receiving room is essentially the only part that I see that needs actual technical help, which we can really categorize down almost. You can't even say that in the flex. Because Brees Hall, David Montgomery, and Saquon are going to be starts every week. Kendrick Bourne and Jahan Dotson. Do you even notice Kendrick for a second there? Like,
I would just be looking to make the right moves on the waiver wire because nobody on your current bench right now is really making an impact. And so I would just look to make the right moves and the right pickups.
It's
like
also just a very
Mercado or someone is a guy you could start over Kendrick Bourne for the next 4 weeks, or KJ Osborne, or it depends who's on waivers. But like,
and you could probably like with wide receiver with the running back depth this person has, they could probably like ship Kareem Hunt to try to pick up someone with higher upside, like in the wide receiver position. I mean, same with someone like Cam Akers even.
Yeah, I would just look at waivers and see if there's moves that can be made because I don't see JMO really being that viable most of the year. Same with Kendrick Bourne. I mean, his like floor, I guess, is probably pretty high. Just I don't see him having terrible weeks, but the pop is not really there. And yeah, I would rather have like DeMercado or something like that on my team for the next few weeks.
For losing Chubb and supposedly Barkley, this is a very strong pivot regardless. This is just a very strong team. Like, there's not really anyone you can be selling too high on to improve it, but this is still a very strong team with what you had to deal with. And I really wouldn't do anything else. Like, in theory, try to sell high on any of these guys if they pop for you, but like it's more of the kind of waiting game more than anything, at least in my opinion. But I mean, maybe even see if somebody will pay a super premium on the Dallas defense, because that is possible. But actually probably depreciated heavily in value after this weekend showing. Let's see here. Always fill in the extra bench spot with a defense here. Always want to point that out. David Montgomery, Kyren Williams. Receivers are insane. Don't understand why Jacobs is in the flex. I mean, like...
keeps him hungry.
Yeah, like, this is just a very, very strong team. In theory, like, upgrade your running backs to something even better, but, like, you put Josh Jacobs here, like, maybe, like, improve your flex spot. It's just a very strong team. Nothing really to say about
Start rotating some defenses in there. It's the only thing I would say could be better.
I'd consider trying to buy TJ Hawkinson right now. I think that could be worth the buy.
So high on Kittle as well. I mean, this is the absolute peak. But, like, Aaron Jones and Brees Hall there, too. Brees Hall is going to pop for most of the rest of this year. So I think you need to be moving off of him, maybe even sell high. I think this week
go buy Justin
might be a little bit of a down week. So, yeah.
Like,
assuming you can afford a couple losses, which I would guess you can, given you had a Kittle week this week and a Jacobs week, and then Tyreek Hill week 1 and Monty week 4, whatever that was. So you've had a lot of huge weeks. It seems like you can afford a loss or two. I would package Brees Hall and, like, I don't know. Would you give up Brees and
this team needs
Jacobs
wide receiver depth, if more than anything? Who
would you be comfortable giving up on this team for Jefferson?
I mean,
Brees and...
I'd be willing to throw like a combination of Kyren. I don't really want to be giving up David Montgomery given his role, but like he could be on the table. I just want to make sure that, I guess this is a better way to phrase it, I'd want to have at least two of Jacobs, Brees Hall, and David Montgomery on this team. But this team does.
Kyron and Amon Ra.
I'm not opposed
That's
to
a
it.
lot.
Yeah, it is kind of a lot.
Would you give up Hall and Kyron?
Eh, I'm not opposed to it. Like my big thing with this team, the more I look at it, is just like it needs more receiver help because like Tyreek Hill and Amon are awesome, but like what happens when one of those two has a bye week? You really feel comfortable in starting Tank Dell or Michael Wilson or Rosalie Deontay? No, like those guys aren't filling the gap that holds. That's really how I would do it.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
But we'll see how it progresses there. Next thing we have Brock Purdy, Bijan Robinson, Brees Hall, Michael Pittman, CeeDee Lamb, Sam Laporta, Garrett Wilson. If you had this team at the beginning of the year, you'd have been ecstatic, whereas now you're kind of questioning life, i.e., CeeDee Lamb right now.
Brees Hall has improved, though.
Yeah.
Some of the potential's panned out, and I'm personally not too worried about CD too much. He had some weird down weeks at the beginning of last year as well. I don't think it's too much to put too much thought into.
It'll get better. I mean, the receivers are just kind of ebb and flow, but they're solid all around. Your running back spot technically needs more true depth, but like having Brees Hall and Bijan as your starters is just more than fine. Like I don't know, I like this in general. And for those asking about if we passed your team or not, these will all be uploaded to YouTube immediately after this is done.
We've done, I don't know, what, mid-20s or something, so I would guess if your team is submitted, it's most likely been done already.
Yeah. We're on 32 right now.
Yeah. And if for whatever reason I miss your team, and if you go back on YouTube and if you don't see it in there, just DM me and I'll get your team on the next stream that we do.
Yeah. But overall, this is a solid team. The running back depth is fine. I technically want a stronger flex, but like, I don't really want to give up on Garrett Wilson at this point, considering where the Jets could be going. Like, Zach Wilson did have one good-looking game, and they'll likely bring in a vet. But like, I like having Michael Pittman and CeeDee Lamb a lot. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird ebb and flow team. I like it though overall. Let's see here. We got Fields, Barkley, Henry, Metcalf, Deebo, George Kittle, Zach Ertz. So this doesn't look like it's that same potential tight end premium. So they actually have Ertz sitting in the flex. You have a bunch of people on buys. You don't really have anything you can plug in there. So that's why you have Zach Ertz. I'd still be chasing upside with Dotson. That's just me. Zay Jones really isn't helping you. Like, the flex spot is really your technical killer, but it's not like you have a lot you can trade out of for it. If Romeo Dubs has a good game, you could potentially package him, but, like, no one's really going to be trading for Jahan Dotson or Zay Jones right now. Jalen Warren, you want to stash. Anything else that you guys have for this specific team?
I think it's a big week for waivers. One of the bigger ones of the season so far, it feels like, with a few running back injuries and then the Jefferson injury and stuff. So, I mean, I don't know the size of this league, but, I mean, DeMercado would definitely be on waivers. Maybe even KJ Osborne, but I think you need to do whatever you can to not have Ertz as the flex. And so, picking up a guy that could even get you a few weeks of production with some guys ahead of them out, I think is a good move to be making right now. Do you think Keontae Ingram has any potential to be the lead running back there?
I thought that's what was going to happen, but considering that we see this Amari kid coming into relevance.
Well, Keontae was hurt this week, so he's supposed to be back next week, so it's just kind of a tough one to balance. But, I mean, if you're in super deep leagues, I would look at Keontae Ingram as a guy to potentially take a flyer on, because I think by the end of this 4-week span that Connor's going to be out, he should have a week or two in there where he's the guy, but who knows? It's a tough one to predict.
No, like, I agree that's a point that I even factor in, but like if that's the case, and Keontae should likely be the guy, but we will see. overall, it's a fine team. It's just like the bench is rather weak in the sense of like you need a flex. But like your starters should be able to hold strong as long as they're all healthy. Trevor Lawrence, Josh Jacobs. This is a very strong running back core. Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore, Nico Collins, which is fine. No flex in this league, which is definitely interesting. Um, yeah, I mean this is just very strong. Like your only weak point is technically your third receiver here, but like you wouldn't expect it to really be anything better than this. Um, like in
Trade Laporta.
Yeah, you can trade Laporta or like add anything here. I understand kind of hedging Laporta for Kelsey at this point, but like
5.8 projection is crazy.
yeah, that is insanely low. That actually makes no sense. Um, but yeah, like third wide receiver technically here is the only like spot you could really upgrade because like your running backs are very strong. And you don't really want to be getting rid of Jerome Ford or Rashad White to fill in that gap if needed. Overall, I like this team though. Let's see here. I think that might have been our last one here. Nope, we got two more, and then we will be done for today.
Yeah, I added on one extra who I missed out on
Perfect.
when they hit me up earlier.
Let's see. We got Justin Fields, Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle, Gus Edwards, Rashad White, Dallas Goddard, and Tank Dell. Yeah, Jefferson now sitting on the bench. I mean, your running backs are just in shambles. That is the reality of the matter. You can't really control that, unfortunately. This might have been a Nick Chubb team. Actually, highly doubt that. Um,
It's probably just an Aaron Jones, Rashad
Yeah.
White.
Like the running backs just need more work here. The flex is gonna be very come and go based off how you set this team up, mainly because it looks like that's where you usually would have like Jalen Waddle or Olave, but like the running backs are really really weak on this team. So like I would try to get a third theoretical running back that you know is going to be more consistent, considering Aaron Jones is very back and forth, and you don't want to rely on Gus Edwards if you don't have to.
Pick up one of those Arizona backs we just talked about for
Yeah,
a few weeks because with Aaron Jones out, it seems like you just need a guy to slot in there, and both those guys could do a job for a couple weeks. So throw one of them in there, and then once Jefferson comes back, your receiving core. Clearly, you drafted 3 receivers in your first 3 picks. So that all that considered, I think having Rashad White and Aaron Jones isn't the worst spot to be in. So, I mean, I don't hate where you're at right now.
yeah. But overall, it's not a bad spot. It's just as we point out, like the running backs are just very, very weak, and you're gonna have some weeks where Goddard's great and some where he's just irrelevant. Moving on to our last team here, though, we got Jalen Hurts, Bijan Robinson, Brees Hall, Cooper Cup, Puka, Jake Fergie, and Chris Olave. With
You're
Watson,
chilling.
Metcalf, and yeah, I mean this is just a great roster. There's really nothing to say about this.
You got guys to slot in for every bye week. Yeah, nothing bad to say here.
In
I
theory,
think maybe a
improve the
sell high on Puka.
yeah, like maybe build up
Package
your
up a
tight
Puka
end.
and Zay Flowers or Puka and Jerome and get a guy that's going to be more reliable there because having both the Rams guys just isn't. I mean, it's solid because in a way it'll keep your floor high because one of them is going to have a big week, but it kind of lowers the ceiling of like a massive 20 points each type of thing just because there's only so many targets to go around. So
Yeah, like in theory, just build up your tight end here. Like everything else is pretty solid. Um, like maybe even have like a better backup running back that you can slide into the flex, but like this is a very, very, very solid team. Um, really like it overall. But I think that's the last team we have in this stream. Appreciate all of you guys popping out for the short time that we had on here for today. Ran another hour 20 for you guys, rating each one of your respective teams. Big thank you to Jackson and Grant here, sitting alongside, chatting with me, and going through some ball here. We'll see exactly how this kind of week progresses as we get closer to start time. But if you guys want your team rated in the next stream, then I encourage you guys to pop in the Discord. Link to that is the bio. DM our guy Jackson here at Jamario Moon. We'll be on live doing some more of these in the future. Jackson and
should
Grant,
be on
thank you for
tomorrow
popping in.
probably.
Probably going to be on
Yeah.
for tomorrow.
Stay tuned for news in the Discord, but we should have one of these tomorrow.
Hopefully, I have more energy, and we'll be back then. But until next time, this will be on YouTube. Peace, y'all.